I have the okay from the powers that be to my right here that we think we're okay, technically, so we'll see. So we'll call this meeting to order. Roll call by the county clerk, please.
We have 29 present and 1 absent.
Thank you. We have quorum. Let we please rise for a pledge of allegiance. Carl, this is for your last meeting. Why don't you lead us tonight?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, I forgot it there.
Take a moment. Please be seated. While you take this moment of silence, it's a good opportunity to mention, I was brought up by Supervisor Backlund, former supervisor, Mold passed away this past weekend. He was on the board here for a number of years. He was our vice chair. And I do not have any more details than that. It was just this weekend, so when we have details, we'll let you know. But he served for a good 10, 12 years on this board, so. All right, we're in compliance with the open meetings law.
We are, Mr. Chair.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as printed unless somebody sees something that has to be moved around. Moved by Mr. Paulson, second by Mr. Jacob. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Approval of the February 10th, 2026 meeting minutes. Mr. Paulson.
I would move for approval of the February 10th, 2026 meeting minutes.
Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Falker. Anybody see any mistakes, changes, things? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Communications.
No communications, beyond what's printed on the sheet.
What? Well, you want to mention?
Okay, yep, there's notice of public hearing for planning and zoning, which is March 26, 2026 at 6 p.m. And then you should also find the treasurer's monthly report.
Then we go to public comment of agenda items. I have only one person here, and that's signed up for a non-agenda item, so that'll be at the end. So nothing for public comment. Agenda items will move to special order of business, employee retirement recognitions.
Yes, we have a number of people we are recognizing who had retired in the last quarter of 2025. We'll have some more retirement recognitions coming in 2026. The second quarter of 2026. But the reason why we're delayed a little bit is because the person who did this for 27 years and coordinated all the retirement herself retired. And so we're honoring her tonight. So I'll just read off the people. I don't believe any of them are here in person, but we do want to recognize them for their service. We have Bonnie Wetzel, who was a cook in the sheriff's office at 7.1 years of service to the county. Dominic Wandolkowski, who is the ADRC supervisor at Human Services with 35 years of service to Jefferson County. Mary Beam, who is the CLTS supervisor at Human Services, had 22.9 years of service to the county. Tammy Yeager, who was the administrative secretary in the administration department for 27.6 years. Larry Meyer, who was a building and maintenance supervisor in central services with 23.9 years of service to the county. And Ryan Scheel, who was a building and maintenance worker, also in central services, who retired with 12.6 years of service to the county.
And then resolutions, county board retirements.
If it's all right, I guess I'd ask for unanimous consent to take up all these resolutions en masse.
Do we have all in favor of that, of unanimous consent to take these all together? Say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, we can do them all together.
Okay, so starting with resolution 2025 number
81.
81, and then going through resolution number 86. These are recognitions of the county board supervisors who are not on the ballot for reelection in April. They are Supervisor Dick Jones from the 1st District, Supervisor Cassie Richardson from the 2nd District, Supervisor Carl Zarling from the 4th District, Supervisor Dan Herbst from the 6th District, Supervisor Amanda Truax from the 13th District, and Supervisor Mary Roberts from the 29th District, all of whom have had a varied in length but nonetheless distinguished time here on the board. We are very grateful for your service, service of your neighbors, really, and grateful you could be here with us, and hope you are not a stranger in the future. So, I have asked the chair for permission to introduce these directly to the floor, and I guess now I'd entertain a motion to pass all these resolutions.
So moved by Mr. Kennard, second by Mr. Backlund. Anything else anybody would like to add? Seeing none, all in favor of these resolutions in the aggregate, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the resolutions pass, and we thank them all for their service over these many years. Okay, takes us to item C, proclamation proclaiming April 12th, 18th, 2026 as National 911 Telecommunicator Week.
Again, with permission of the chair, this is a direct referral onto the county board floor, and so I'll read the proclamation in full. Proclaiming April 12th through 18th, 2026 as National 911 Telecommunicator Week. Whereas 911 is nationally recognized as the number to call in an emergency to receive immediate help from police, fire, emergency medical services, or other appropriate emergency response entities. And whereas Jefferson County Sheriff's Office 911 communication operators are the first line of communication and the most critical point of contact Jefferson County residents and visitors have with emergency services. And whereas 911 communication operators are responsible for the safety of our police officers, firefighters, and EMS who are dependent upon the quality and accuracy of the information obtained from individuals who contact communication centers. And whereas Jefferson County Sheriff's Office 911 communications operators serve as the most important link of service between our police, firefighters, and EMS by monitoring their activities by radio and computer, providing them information and ensuring their safety. And whereas Jefferson County Sheriff's Office 911 communication operators have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients through their commitment and dedication to public safety. And whereas Jefferson County Sheriff's Office 911 communication operators have exhibited compassion, understanding, professionalism, and the ability to work under extreme pressure during the performance of their duties. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors that April 12th through the 18th, 2026 is hereby recognized as National 911 Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. And all government officials, parents, teachers, school administrators, caregivers, business leaders, nonprofit organizations, and the people of Jefferson County are called upon to observe this week with training, events, and activities to educate the public on 911 and its services. Proclamation number 2025-6. And again, I would ask for someone to move adoption of this proclamation.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Jekyll, second by Mr. Falker. Any questions? All in favor of this proclamation, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the proclamation passes. Takes us to presentation on 2025 year-end financial results. Is that Mark? Yep. Okay.
So we have a PowerPoint presentation that Serene is pulling up right now, but before we get to that, while she's doing that, I'll just share with you a little story here. When I presented these results to Michael, I asked him, what do you want first? Do you want the good news first or the bad news first? And Michael chose the bad news. So I'd like to see a show of hands. Bad news first? Good news first. Okay, that's interesting, and I'm just going to tell you, I looked up on Google what that means in terms of what your personality is. So choosing to we had the overwhelming bad news first. So choosing to hear or deliver bad news first suggests you are pragmatic, action-oriented, and prefer to manage anxiety by tackling problems directly. So you go, and looks like the majority of us in this room are that way. I would like the bad news first too, by the way.
Much bad.
There isn't any bad news. But that's the good news. There's no bad news. I think this is all pretty good. So, yeah, that was an interesting little exercise. I don't have any bad news for you. So, with that, I will move on to the presentation. Welcome, and thank you for coming tonight.
That's not going to work. That's what messed up the system, so I'll have to
This will? Oh, okay. All right, well, then please advance one slide forward. And we'll talk a little bit about what we're gonna talk about tonight. I'll present the financial results by fund and give you a brief analysis of how we got to where we are. I'll talk a little bit about the capital projects fund and what's in there yet after the building project closed up last year. Then we'll get into the budget amendment and the carry forward. That is the subject of the resolution that's in your package, and it kind of looks like this. It's got these red bars in the middle of it, and I'll talk a little bit about what's in there and what we're voting on tonight. And then I'll give a little bit about the near-term financial outlook. So the financial results by fund. I'm going to go down one fund at a time, and I'll start with the general fund. The general fund ended the year with a gain of almost $2.5 million. I'll talk about how we got there in just a moment. The health department fund ended with a gain of $46,250.91. Human services fund had a deficit of $535,000. The Live Local Development Fund, that's a new fund this year. We started that fund to account for the Live Local Development activity. These are loans to developers that are building houses in the county. That fund ended the year with $2 million in fund balance. That was a transfer out of the general fund to get that program up and running. The debt service fund ended with a deficit of $39,077.30. That should always have an ending fund balance. In normal years of zero, we ended with $2.30, so I'm gonna have to do something about that and clear that out. But it should be zero because we levy the debt for the debt, and we make the debt payments out of that levy, and it should always break even unless, as we did this year, we began the year with $39,000, and that was left over from premiums that we'd issued on previous bonds that can only be used towards debt service. The capital projects fund ended the year with a $40,000 deficit. The highway department fund ended the year with $579,000 deficit. MIS department fund always breaks even. We charge all of the MIS costs back to the departments as a cost of doing business in those departments, and so they break even at zero. And then finally, the fleet vehicle fund ended with a surplus of $136,254. On the next slide. Yep. So I'll talk a little bit about what happened in the general fund this year. Most departments tracked on or under budget. We will be entertaining a resolution tonight to do contingency transfers for those departments that exceeded their budget. I am happy to report that there were only two departments that did that. One is the library fund. It's not really even in a department. The amount in total was $1,407.53. I've never seen it that low. That is outstanding. I think that is a great job on our departments of tracking their budgets and monitoring their budgets. You got to remember that this is a $106 million budget. So to only have departments go over by $1,407 is just outstanding, I think. So kudos to all our departments, and thank you for doing a good job of watching your budgets. So the results in general fund were very favorable. We had a $2.5 million surplus. Contributing to that was several significant revenue boosts over the past years. We had a TID closure up in Watertown that gave us $707,000. That's a one-time revenue source. We had a $750,000 increase in utility aid payments due to the liquid natural gas storage facility up in Ixonia. That will be an ongoing source of revenue. The sales tax was $740,000 over budget, which is very strong. And we had good, strong sales tax collection year. I would just remind this board that we kept sales tax static for 2026, so it was $9 million budgeted in 2025. We kept it at that same level in 2026. I think we're going to probably see, another good year in sales tax collections. So you can expect to see some positive results there again, I think in 2026 if everything keeps going the way it is. And then finally, investment income was $850,000 over budget, and unrealized gains of $350,000, which is not budgeted. And I'll just say for unrealized gains, we don't budget that because we hold all of our investments to maturity. So it doesn't really matter to us what the market value of those investments are because we're gonna cash them in at par once they mature. So when interest rates go down and we're holding investments that earn more than what the interest rates currently are, we get an unrealized gain, and that's what happened in this year. Okay, next slide. Thank you. That's a little bit about revenues. We'll talk a little about expenses now. Overall wages and benefits in the general fund were $2.1 million under budget. The sheriff, thank you, Sheriff, you contributed $1.1 million to that. Administration contributed $238,000 due to the open engineer and administrator, county administrator positions when Michael came in at a lower rate. And then also we hired Ryan in at less than what we were paying Michael when he was in the assistant county administrator position. So all these things contributed to that. Clerk of courts and court support was under by $220,000, and then the human resources was under by $87,000, and that was the safety and risk manager position that was unfilled and was underfunded for the 2026 budget year. Overall operating expenses, exclusive of wages and benefits, were $1.8 million under budget. Again, administration contributed to that. We had a large chunk of money that we set aside for remediation at the old highway site while we wait for that site to be purchased. That remains in the budget, and you'll see that carry forward again in this 2026 budget carryover request. The finance department, my department, we account for the dental claims. The dental claims, we pay them out of the finance department's budget, but then we charge those claims back to the other departments. And so it's kind of double counted in the budget. We reversed the double count at the end of the year as a part of the financial reporting process. That's why we're $517,000 under budget. The claims themselves were about $495,000. So we were under budget in total for dental claims. And then the sheriff's operating expenses were $426,000 under budget. So again, thank you to the sheriff's department for that. Next slide. Thanks. So that's the end of the general fund. The health department, we have some grants that were helping us out, some ARPA grants that were diverting resources to those services that were funded by our ARPA grants away from the public health nursing program. And the public health nursing program is levy funded. So when we have grant funds that are available to spend for those programs, they divert from the time that we have to spend on levy funded positions. That caused a slight surplus in the health department fund of, like I said, about $45,000. In the human services department, wages and benefits were under budget by $2.4 million. Operating expenses were over by 1.8. The highest overages in that fund were in counseling, respite care, and institutional care, in other words, placements. We did have a bad year in placements this year. We did wind up going into our reserve for placements that we do and that we carry forward every year. The general fund did do a transfer out to human services to make them whole, to keep that reserve intact so that we can continue to fund our out-of-state our placements on an ongoing basis. Total revenue was under budget in human services by $957,000. So all this contributes to a little over $500,000 deficit that was in the human services fund. Highway fund, they also had a deficit of over $500,000. The reason for that is that asphalt bids came in a little bit higher than we expected. There were some significant storms in December of 2025 that caused winter maintenance costs to spike at the end of the year. And then the County Highway D Bridge, the bids were a little bit higher than what we estimated, and we had some unforeseen structural issues that we had to take money out of our own fund to fix before that project could move forward. And then finally, fleet had a small surplus. This fund doesn't recognize vehicle purchases at cost, so I think that's a little bit misleading when you see a surplus in that fund, because the vehicles that we purchase they are depreciated over time, so the cost isn't expensed right away. Only a portion of that cost is recognized over the useful life of the vehicles. So almost all of the fund balances it shows our investment in those vehicles. Any questions on the results so far before I jump into capital project fund? Okay. Oh, yeah, sure.
Do you expect the money from the Exonia project to be consistently that or going up in the future?
Sure, yeah, Michael can.
So the Assembly and the Senate both passed bills that's awaiting the governor's signature that would increase the amount in future years. The current way the legislation is written for the facility code they're using under utility aid is a support structure, and those are capped at $125 million in net book value. Under the bill that would hopefully get signed into law soon, it moves it to a different part of statute, classifies it as the whole net book value with no cap, meaning we would get 6 mils on the full net book value of roughly 200 million. So the price we anticipate before the facility depreciates, probably another 400,000 or so coming back in utility aid next year.
So we received an additional 750,000 in 2025 as a result of not the legislation that passed, but I think it was just an allocation that Department of Revenue decided to make because they felt like it was allowed under the state statute. So we did get that. That will be ongoing, that 750,000. What Michael just talked about was in addition to the 750,000 that we're expecting to see hopefully soon. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to jump into capital projects fund. The reason I'm highlighting this, I think there's some interest in what's in this fund. This is the fund that was funding the building improvements. So we issued a large amount of debt to fund the improvements to the building, about $36 million in debt. That's all been spent now. And so what I wanted to do is give you a little briefing on what's left in that fund after all this has been done. And so now that we've completed the courthouse project, the funds available in the capital projects fund is 1.3 million. Now you remember that we issued some debt to fund capital projects in 2026 during the 2026 budget process. So that's included in this number, and that's 805,769. So what we have of unrestricted balance, we'll call it unrestricted, is $575,969. What we're setting that aside for are some closing costs and other studies for farmland. That was money that was appropriated a couple of years ago. As we began selling off some of the county farmland, we set aside money for future costs that might be related to the development of that land. Right now, what's left in there is $125,066. And we've also got a Sigma contract for some soil borings out at the old highway shop. We've budgeted $25,000 for those soil borings, which leaves us with $425,906 for future capital needs. And you might ask what those needs are. Well, here they are. The highway site remediation is going to cost a lot of money. We don't know exactly how much yet, but it's going to be more than $425,000. We are in the process of working with Vertus and Sigma to determine what that final cost will be and what our share of that cost will be. And then also, there was a lift station that was built out at the county farmland when Kikkoman had purchased their property and started to build. Our portion of that lift station is estimated to be 1.1 million. I say estimated because it's going to depend on how much TID revenue comes back into the TID to be able to pay for the lift station, and the residual amount will be our burden. At the most, it's going to be 1.1 million. I expect it to be less than that, but we should be planning ahead. I would like to pay for that using proceeds from the land sales out at the county farm. I think that's prudent. So I'd like to start accumulating funds to pay that off in total instead of having to issue debt for it. And then we will have future land sales that will fund that and hopefully some other projects as well, and hopefully contribute also to the remediation that's done at the old highway site. So that's Capital Projects Fund. Any questions on Capital Projects Fund?
Yeah, I have one question, with the remediation, back in 1999 or 2000, Tommy Thompson said that all parking lots and, they changed to really non-contaminated areas. All parking lots and roadways are considered contaminated sites. So if you just made that a parking lot, you wouldn't have no remediation.
Well, that's kind of the way it is right now, to be honest. I mean, it's all capped with concrete, and the DNR has said that that's fine as long as we don't disturb the soil. So we wouldn't have any remediation. There would not be a liability if we weren't selling the property.
Yes, thank you. I know what a lift station is, but can you explain to me why we're responsible for putting a lift station in or maintaining in part that lift station on land that we sold?
I don't think we'll be maintaining it. We are responsible for the cost of the lift station. That was a part of the deal that we struck with the city as we work towards developing the Kikkoman portion of that property. Any other questions? Okay. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about the fund balance policy application. We went through this in great detail at the Finance Committee. I'm not going to flash it up on the screen because I can't, but I will say that we did two scenarios with the fund balance policy application. We did, as you recall, we changed the policy when we passed the budget, the 2026 budget. And now we're looking at what we call our risk-based amount, what the cumulative effect of all possible rainy days would be. And that's what we have to have in place to be able to respond to a number of different disasters that could happen individually or concurrently at the same time. That amount, if you recall, at the top end was 15.3 million. What we're winding up the year with is significantly more than that. We're ending up the year at about 28 million in fund balance that's unassigned. So we have some money that we can do some nice projects with that we're discussing in the Finance Committee right now. I also thought it would be interesting to apply the old policy just to see where we landed in terms of the old policy. So if you recall, a year ago when I presented to this board the financial results and I showed the results of that policy application, we were underwater by about 2.3, or under our 3-month goal by about 2.3 million. And I'm happy to say that at this point we're over our 3-month goal by about 1.3, and I'm recommending to the Finance Committee to take that 1.3 million and apply it towards 2027 capital purchases so that we don't have to do what we did this year and issue debt. So that is what we've been kind of working towards. Years ago, we were using surpluses from prior years to fund our capital. We had some big expenses like this courthouse that we were drawing down on our fund balance to pay for. Now we're back in a position where we can start applying those funds back to our normal, what I would call operating routine capital purchases again. And so that's a good place to be. It's a good, solid policy. I think it's a responsible use of taxpayer money. So I'm really happy to report that. I'm not going to go too much further into fund balance policy application. I think I hit the high points. But if you have any questions about it, please feel free to contact me directly. I'd be happy to walk you through the policy application. All right, and on to the budget amendment. And again, that looks like this. It's got red bars going through it. I'm just going to explain to you what's in here. And if you have any questions while we're going through this, feel free to stop me and ask questions. But I'll start at the top of the page. And we have general revenue and expense. We're carrying forward $490,163 for strategic plan initiatives. That was something that the board approved in March of 2024. In the original amount of $500,000, we've drawn down a little bit of that, mostly for signage out at Black Hawk Island and those properties, so that people know where not to dump. And then also we have a transfer over to the fleet fund for $300,000. I will only do that if we need to. We are going to have some meetings with the highway shop to determine what our fleet needs are for the current year and what the market will support in terms of our turnover in that fleet program. So if we don't need it, I won't transfer it over. Next, onto the administration department. We're asking for a 1-year extension of the Carl James contract. That is our communications contract. I think we've done an excellent job in that area this past year. And I think you've seen it out on media. There's been a lot more content out there for people to digest, and so that's served us well. I think we got a lot of positive press going on out there, and I hope everybody in this room has noticed that. Also, ENS planning, $50,000. I talked a little bit about highway site remediation. We're reserving $394,000. It's going to be more than that. But that's a good start for $394,000, and we'll update this board when we have final results. Future needs for farmland master plan, $70,000. South Campus Space Study, which is by far the fastest growing area in the county right now, and we're running out of space for our people out there, so we would like to do a space needs study out there, and we're allocating $70,000 for that. And then if needed, alcohol treatment and drug treatment court restructure of $62,000 and $62,016 for that. Facilities, we have a number of various small projects at the courthouse, and I'll just kind of read them to you really briefly here. Shades at security screening entrance, shades at the conference room right next door here, to get some privacy in that room. Building directory entrance at the courthouse, kind of a kiosk to direct people to where they need to go when they enter the building. And then finally, alarm system at the courthouse, and that would be at the north entrance over here, where we currently don't have an alarm, and I think there's a need for that. It's a good purchase.
Is the kiosk gonna be electronic or?
I think so. I believe so. Do you know it? No?
No. John, do you, I don't know if I can pull up a spec maybe to show.
I know we've had some requests for electronic kiosk.
It's not a digital kiosk or an electric kiosk. It's really just a building directory conventional in terms of signs showing room numbers and referencing where to find the space.
All right. Human resources, we're restructuring human resources department and going through some staffing changes. We allocated 10,000 for some changes over there. And then we have some labor negotiations with the deputies, and we'll need some outside help with council on that. So we're allocating 30,000 for labor negotiations. Land and Water Conservation Department is something that we see every year. There's some new grants over there, and then we've got some restricted project funds that we're carrying forward from donations and grants that we've received, money that we've received. Parks, park and outdoor recreation plan is in progress right now. That started in 2025. We're asking to carry forward $48,720 to complete that. Interurban Trail will be completed this year, thankfully, and that's a long time coming. We've got $379,223 to allocate to that. That should take us to the completion of that project along with other grants that we've been awarded for that. Court Park Trail Connector for $33,997 again. That is also going to be supplemented by other grants and donations to complete that project as well. So it's going to be more, the total cost will be more than $33,000, but that's just the general funds contribution to it. The Parks building, if you recall, we set aside some money for fencing and improvements to the parking lot there. We've got a little bit of money to carry forward on that. The tree loft land purchase, we are carrying forward $31,578 for that. And I think that's also going to take place very shortly. And then we have other restricted funds from donations and grants that we're carrying forward as well that are pretty customary. And planning and zoning, we began accumulating funds for the next comprehensive plan. So you'll see a little over $90,000 being set aside for that. And thanks, Matt, for thinking ahead on that. I appreciate that because that is an expensive thing to do. So I think it's prudent to start planning for that right now. Sheriff's Department, we've had $40,733 that wasn't spent towards their squad, so we're asking to carry that forward from last year into this year so they can complete outfitting the squads. The Mavis project also started in 2025, and in order to wrap that up, we're going to use $33,124, and then again, other grants and restricted funds in the Sheriff's Department that have to do with things like K-9, other drug task force, and also for drug forfeiture funds. And human services, again, I mentioned earlier that the reserves of $650,000, we're preserving that and carrying that forward so we can keep that there for future placements. They do have some unfinished capital projects that were started in 2025 that we're reserving $63,488 for. And then again, similar to other departments, they have some grants and some restricted donations that they're carrying forward as well. Highway shop, one thing that we're proposing at the highway shop, you don't see that in this package, but it's a coming attraction, is a possible pension and stability reserve. When there are swings in the market, investments affects our pension liability, that affects the highway shop's bottom line. It's been typically that's the equipment fund has absorbed the swings in the pension, which makes it a little bit difficult to plan for capital purchases of equipment in the highway fund. And so we'll be meeting with the highway shop and to determine what a suitable amount for a pension fund, I guess, reserve would be to kind of protect us against swings, unpredictable swings of the pension. So I'm putting that in there as a coming attraction. You'll probably see that next year. It's probably going to be a pretty significant amount. Quad axles and trucks that are on order. We got $6.2 million worth of equipment that has been ordered and we're going to receive shortly. County Highway G project, we're reserving $571,000 for that. Wrap up of County Highway D and then P and V, $2.4 million for those. Winter maintenance is down a little bit this year. We're carrying forward a little under $600,000. And then some administrative and staffing changes and engineering for future projects, totaling $100,000 also in that fund. That about sums it up. That is a lot of information in a very short period of time. And so, are there any questions on this? I mean, there's 5 pages of carry forwards in here, and I just barreled through them pretty quickly. So I'm happy to entertain any questions at this time.
Anybody have questions for Mark?
Otherwise, I just got one
They
more
all
thing.
look dazed,
Yeah, I know. That's why I tried to keep
but
it short.
happily dazed.
I think beyond 2025 for this year is what's going to happen is anybody's guess. It's been very unpredictable at this point, but I will say I was on a phone call just yesterday with Wells Fargo, talking a little bit about what's happening in the market right now. The outlook, according to Wells Fargo, the investors are not fazed by what's going on with the war right now. It seems they seem to think that the outlook is stable. So just hang on to your investments. Don't panic. Right now, what the market is feeling is that they're going to bounce. It's going to bounce back from what's happening, and so I'm hoping that that's true. Our projections for 2026 are based on that assumption, and so like I said, for things like sales tax, I think we can expect some growth. We set the bar pretty low for this year. I think we're going to set ourselves up for success there. Interest, market predicts that Fed rates are expected to drop. I don't know what's going to happen now. That's a very unpredictable thing, but I think if they drop, there won't be much. I would say probably about a half a point at the most, and it looks like it's only going to happen one time this year. That's what there's prediction right now. Federal and state programs, I don't see any impact right now to federal and state programs, but that could change very rapidly. You can expect upward pressures on wages, and especially in certain positions. So we'll be taking a look at that during the 2026 budget, or 2027 budget, I'm sorry. Is it 2026 already? And health insurance premiums are expected to increase by over 10%. We have had some phone calls with the ETF, and it does look like there are going to be another double-digit increases in health insurance as well. Other costs, you can expect inflation in conjunction with higher fuel costs right now. I think that is just inevitable. But overall, I'm expecting another good year for 2026 if everything holds according to plan. So, any other questions? See, good news, right?
Thank you, Mark.
Mr. Chair.
Appreciate it. Thanks for being thorough and but making it very understandable. Thank you. With that, committee reports, resolutions, and ordinances. Executive Committee, proclamation proclaiming April 5th to 11th, 2026 as Fair Housing Week. Mr. Paulson.
Proclamation 2025-7,
7.
proclaiming April 5th through the 11th, 2026 as Fair Housing Week. Whereas it is important to reaffirm the commitment of Jefferson County regarding citizens' right to buy, sell, rent, or otherwise secure housing in Jefferson County without regard to sex, race, religion, marital status, age, national origin, income, or financial status, in conformance with Title 8 of the Civil Rights Action of 1968, also known as the Federal Fair Housing Law and State Open Housing Law. And whereas fair housing occurs when people have a wide range of housing choices based on their income and needs regardless of the characteristics listed above. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors that April 5th through the 11th, 2026 is hereby recognized as Fair Housing Week in Jefferson County, and that the Board of Supervisors assembled this 10th day of March 2026 commends all those who have been involved with the struggle for fair housing, wishing continued success in breaking the barriers that limit the realization of equal housing opportunities for everyone. I move for the adoption of this Proclamation.
Moved by Mr. Paulson, second by Mr. Lund. Any questions, discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the proclamation passes. Takes us to Finance Committee. I just want to let you know that Mr. Jones tried to be here. That was part of the technical difficulties. The Zoom kept kicking him back out, so he could not get online here tonight. So his apologies. He would have liked to have been here and done a lot of reading at his last meeting, but Mr. Jekyll is a vice chair, and he's broken up the reading between, I believe, Mr. Drana and Mr. Zarling. So, Mr. Drana.
Great. Resolution 2025-87,
Yes.
denying the claim for damages by Gabriel Allen. A claim has been made against Jefferson County for damages. The claim has been reviewed by the county's insurance carrier, WMIC, and was recommended for disallowance based on the finding the county has no liability for this claim and is not responsible for the alleged damages. This resolution formally denies the claim against Jefferson County and directs the Corporation Council to give the claimant notice of disallowance. The Finance Committee considered this resolution on March 3rd, 2026, and recommended forwarding to the County Board for approval. Fiscal note, the matter has been referred to WMIC and will be resolved in accordance with the terms of the county's policy. Mr. Chair, I make a motion to support the resolution 2025-87.
Second.
By Mr. Drana, second by Mr. Jekyll. Questions? Mr. Lund?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could we get some more detail about what the allegation is and what happened?
Corporate Counsel, you aware?
Very generally, the allegation is that there was some damage to a vehicle during an arrest. The facts are not as alleged in the claim, and it clearly doesn't have any merit. So,
Thank you.
Resolution 2025.
We didn't vote on this one yet. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes. Okay, Mr.
Now we're ready. Resolution 2025-88, denying the claim for damages for Donna J. Martin. A claim has been made against Jefferson County for damages. The claim has been reviewed by the county's insurer, WMIC, and was recommended for disallowance based on the finding that the county has no liability for this claim and is not responsible for the alleged damages. This resolution formally denies the claim against Jefferson County and directs Corporation Council to give the claimant notice of disallowance. The Finance Committee considered this resolution on March 3rd, 2026, and recommended forwarding to the County Board for approval. Fiscal note, this matter has been referred to WMIC and will be resolved in accordance with the terms of the county's policy. Mr. Chair, I make a motion to support Resolution 2025-88.
Moved by Supervisor Drana, second by Supervisor Jekyll. Any questions? Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none. We'll move on to item C under Finance, resolution authorizing year-end requests to carry over budget appropriations from fiscal year 2025 to fiscal year 2026 and amending the 2026 budget. Mr. Zarling.
Resolution number 2025-89. At year-end, departments are requested to submit carryover requests for funds that are unspent. If the county administrator approves the request, it is reviewed by the Finance Committee and acted on by the County Board for approval. There's a total of $44,761,228.16 proposed to be carried over from fiscal year 2025 to fiscal year 2026. And of this amount, $21,019,819.50 requires County Board approval. The Finance Committee recommends that funds of this $21,019,819.50 be carried over from fiscal year 2025 to fiscal year 2026. This resolution authorizes the carryover of funds and amends the 2026 budget accordingly. The Finance Committee considered this resolution at its March 3, 2026 meeting and recommended forwarding to the County Board for approval. Fiscal notes. The committed, restricted, and non-restricted amounts disclosed above require board approval to be carried forward into the 2026 budget. This resolution authorizes the finance director to make the necessary budget adjustments to enact the resolution. As a budget amendment, this resolution requires 20 of 30 affirmative votes for passage. Explanation of governmental funds. Non-spendable funds are funds that include prepaid items, deposits, and inventory accounts. Spendable restricted funds are funds that are legally restricted by statutes, contracts, or funding source. Spendable committed funds are funds that are spendable at the discretion of the county board. Explanation of proprietary funds, highway. Capital net position represents items that are depreciated along with land which is not depreciated. Restricted net position relates to municipal deposits for subsequent year work by the county. Non-restricted net position includes both required items and discretionary items. Mr. Chair, I move for adoption of this resolution.
Moved by Supervisor Zarling, second by Supervisor Bako. Any questions, discussion concerning this carryover? Seeing none, this is a vote on your tablets.
Supervisor Richardson?
Aye.
Supervisor Herbst?
Aye.
Supervisor White?
Aye.
Okay. I'm not sure what to do about Supervisor Jones. I can only mark him as yes, no, or abstain.
What does he say?
He's not voting on his tablet, he's not a presenter. He's not a
Okay.
panelist.
Then we'll just have to,
Abstain.
yep. That's all we can do.
We have 28 yes, 1 abstain, and 1 absent.
We'd get him on the phone if it was a tie. Right. Okay. Next resolution, authorizing the county administrator to enter into agreement for soil sampling with the Sigma Group.
We got
Oh.
budget amendments to offset fiscal year
Which one?
2020.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over one here. Authorizing budget amendments to offset fiscal year 2025 departmental deficits. Okay, I'm sorry.
Resolution number 2025-90. At year end, the county administrator requests a budget transfer from contingency or general funds to offset department deficits. This resolution will authorize transferring $1,407.53 from the contingency fund, $1,085,511.26 from operating reserves, and $258,671.97 from increased revenue to various county departments due to expenditures in excess of appropriations in fiscal year 2025. The Finance Committee considered this resolution at its March 3rd, 2026 meeting and recommended forwarding to the County Board for approval. Fiscal notes. Jefferson County ended the 2025 fiscal year with $395,807.66 in unallocated contingency funds. This resolution reduces the unallocated contingency budget to $394,400.13. County Clerk, costs related to ballot layout and printing were higher than expected. Library, mileage and per diem expenses slightly exceeded estimates. Highway, higher than expected asphalt bids, winter maintenance costs, and unexpected costs related to the County Highway D Bridge project all contributed to a deficit position in 2025. Live Local Development Fund, a pass-through contribution of $232,796 from the Greater Watertown Foundation, was not included in the original 2025 budget for this fund. Emergency management, costs related to the closeout of the flood mitigation grant and hazard mitigation plan update were higher than expected. These costs are reimbursed by grants. As a budget amendment, this resolution requires 20 of 30 affirmative votes from the total membership of the County Board for passage. Mr. Chair, move for adoption of this resolution.
Moved by Mr. Zarling, second by Mr. Jekyll. Questions, discussion on this resolution? Please vote on your tablets.
Supervisor Richardson? Supervisor Herbst?
Aye.
Supervisor White?
Aye.
We have 28 yes, 1 abstain, and 1 absent.
Thank you very much. The resolution passes. This takes us to item E, authorizing the county administrator to enter into agreement for soil sampling with the Sigma Group, Inc.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution number 2025-91. The Sigma Group, Inc. has been performing various consulting and engineering projects related to the sale of the old highway site and the necessary environmental remediation under the terms of the purchase and sale agreement between Jefferson County and Vertus Development LLC, now City North Development LLC. Vertus Development engaged a civil engineer to determine the overall cut and fill of soils based on their project design. This was shared with the county and with the Sigma Group, who further analyzed the plans and provided cost estimates for the environmental remediation. These estimates can be further refined through the required NR 718 soil sampling. The Finance Committee reviewed the cost estimates provided by the Sigma Group and at their March 3rd, 2026 meeting, recommended authorizing the county administrator to enter into a contract for $38,800 for geoprobe environmental sampling. Fiscal note, funds for this contract are budgeted in the capital projects fund. Mr. Chair, I move for adoption of this resolution.
Moved by Supervisor Zarling, second by Supervisor Jekyll. Questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed. The ayes have it. The resolution passes. Okay. That's complete. Parks Committee. Resolution authorizing the sale of fermented malt beverages at Korth Park. Supervisor Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have resolution number 2025-92. The Jefferson County Parks Department is continuously looking at methods of fundraising for the maintenance and improvement of county parks using non-tax levy funds. A fundraising event in Korth Park named Brew with a View is open to the public and involves live music and the sale of fermented malt beverages and food. Brew with a View has been an ongoing event since 2015 and has been very successful, a very successful fundraiser for the Parks Department. The event involves the sale of fermented malt beverages provided at cost to Jefferson County by Tyranina Brewing Company. All proceeds raised from the event are used for the maintenance and improvement of Jefferson County parks. Wisconsin State Statute, Section 125.06, Sub 6, exempts counties from the requirement to obtain a license or permit to sell fermented malt beverages in any public park operated by a county, and instead requires a county to enact an ordinance, resolution, rule, or regulation allowing such sales. A report is given to the Parks Committee following the event for consideration of future events of this type and discussion of opportunities to partner with other local businesses in fundraising events. This resolution authorizes the sale of fermented malt beverages in Korth Park for Brew with a View events. The Parks Committee considered this resolution at its meeting on February 26, 2026, and recommended forwarding it to the County Board for approval. Fiscal note. This event will have no cost to the county. The proceeds from this event are designated for parks maintenance and improvement. Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption of this resolution.
Moved by Mr. Christensen, second by Mr. Gulig. Any questions, discussion? I know I'll be voting for this. With that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution passes. Item B, resolution authorizing 3-year professional services agreement for ecological restoration services.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have resolution number 2025-93. The Parks Department published a request for qualifications seeking firms to enter into a contract for professional native habitat restoration services across the Jefferson County Park System. The Parks Department received responses from 5 firms. After review of the submissions, the Parks Committee determined tall grass restoration's proposal was the most advantageous to the county, taking into consideration past performance, cost, and availability. Tall Grass Restoration, LLC, has demonstrated a capacity to deliver the the required restoration, invasive plant control, and prescribed fire services on an as-needed basis at the lowest overall cost and in accordance with the highest professional and ecological standards. This resolution authorizes the Jefferson County Parks Department to enter into a 3-year as-needed professional services agreement with Tall Grass Restorations LLC for ecological restoration, invasive species management, and prescribed fire services. This resolution further designates the Jefferson County Parks Director as the authorized agent to procure and secure these services. The Parks Committee considered this resolution at its meeting on February 26, 2026, and recommended forwarding to the County Board for approval. Fiscal note says funding for these services is included in the 2026 Parks budget. No budget amendment is necessary. With that, Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption of this resolution.
Moved by Mr. Christensen, second by Supervisor Callen. Questions, discussion? Mr. Morris.
Are they planning on a prescribed fire?
Kevin, are they planning on any prescribed fires for any of these parks?
Yeah, we have multiple prescribed fires planned for 2026. A lot of them we do internally. This year, I don't think we have any funds set aside to actually contract for prescribed burns. But yes, we will be doing 3 or 4 prescribed burns this year.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Seeing none, the resolution passes. Item C, resolution recognizing the contributions of Doosan Bobcat North America to the Upper Rock Lake Mountain Bike Trail System. Mr. Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would ask Supervisor Joan Callen to please read this resolution.
Thank you. I have resolution number 2025-94. Excuse me. Doosan Bobcat North America has played a critical role in building and expanding the mountain bike trail system at Upper Rock Lake County Park. Through 5 corporate volunteer events, more than 400 hours of donated labor, and the use of company equipment, Doosan Bobcat's support has enabled park and trail improvements that would not have been possible otherwise. This resolution recognizes Doosan Bobcat North America and the leadership of Josh Klein for their continued partnership and commitment to Jefferson County Parks. Whereas Jefferson County Parks benefit greatly from partnerships with local businesses that provide volunteer labor, expertise, and equipment to support park improvements, and whereas Doosan Bobcat North America, under the direction of Josh Klein, manufacturing engineer and mountain bike advocate, has sponsored 5 corporate volunteer events at Upper Rock Lake County Park, contributing more than 400 hours of volunteer labor and the use of company equipment. And whereas these contributions have directly supported the construction and improvement of the mountain bike trail system and park infrastructure, and such projects would not have been completed without the commitment and generosity of Doosan Bobcat North America and its employees. Now therefore be it resolved that the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors hereby recognizes and commends Doosan Bobcat North America for its outstanding contributions to Upper Rock Lake County Park and the county's mountain bike trail system. And be it further resolved that the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors expresses its sincere appreciation to Josh Klein and the employees of Doosan Bobcat North America for their leadership, volunteer service, and partnership. Mr. Chair, I recommend adoption of this resolution.
Recommended by Supervisor Callen, second by Supervisor Paulson. Questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Here, the resolution passes. Resolution recognizing the Friends of Rose Lake for 25 years of dedicated service to Dorothy Carnes County Park and Rose Lake State Natural Area. Mr. Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd ask Supervisor Tony Gulig to please read this resolution.
Thank you. Resolution number 2025-95. recognizing the Friends of Rose Lake for 25 years of dedicated service to Dorothy Carnes Park and Rose Lake State Natural Area. For 25 years, the Friends of Rose Lake have been a steadfast partner in the stewardship of Dorothy Carnes Park and the Rose Lake State Natural Area. Through sustained volunteer service, financial contributions, educational programming, and resource monitoring, the Friends of Rose Lake have enhanced park operations and protected natural resources. This resolution recognizes their longstanding commitment and the vital role volunteers play in the success of Jefferson County parks. Whereas Dorothy Carnes Park and the Rose Lake State Natural Area are valued public resources that provide recreational, educational, and ecological benefits to Jefferson County residents and visitors. And whereas the Friends of Rose Lake have supported and stewarded these resources for 25 years through consistent volunteer service, financial contributions, education, and on-the-ground stewardship. And whereas members of the Friends of Rose Lake have dedicated significant time and expertise to wildlife inventory and monitoring, including bird life and other natural resources, supported informed park management and conservation efforts. And whereas at a time when many volunteer organizations fluctuate, the Friends of Rose Lake have remained a reliable and engaged presence, demonstrating exceptional long-term commitment. And whereas volunteers and friends groups are essential to the operation and success of the Jefferson County Parks Department, providing services, expertise, and community stewardship that extend the county's capacity. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors hereby recognizes and commends the Friends of Rose Lake for 25 years of dedicated service to Dorothy Carnes County Park, the Rose Lake State Natural Area, and the resources therein. And be it further resolved that the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors expresses its sincere appreciation for the Friends of Rose Lake's volunteer service, financial support, educational efforts, and resource stewardship. Financial note, passage of this resolution has no fiscal impact. I move for approval of this resolution.
Moved by Supervisor Gulick. Do I have a second? Supervisor Bachman? Mr. Christensen?
Mr. Chair, I wonder if we could just take a moment to have the members that are here from the Rose Lake Friends to stand up so we can see who they are. This is a core group among a number of other people.
Please stand up.
Sure. And then also, there's two employees from Doosan Bobcat, including Josh Klein. They're here with us tonight. If they would stand up so we can see them and thank them for their. Thank you.
All in favor of that resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes. Resolution authorizing motorized recreation grant application to fund the Jefferson County Snowmobile Trail Aid Program.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have resolution number 2025-96. Jefferson County participates in the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources Snowmobile Trail Aid Program, funded by the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources Motorized Recreation Grant, which provides funding for the development and maintenance of approximately 234.8 miles of public snowmobile trails in Jefferson County. Applying for these grant funds requires county board authorization. This resolution authorizes the Jefferson County Parks Director to submit a Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources Motorized Recreation Grant and applications seeking funds for snowmobile trail maintenance and development, and to administer the funds according to the grant requirements. The Parks Committee considered this resolution at its February 26, 2026 meeting and recommended forwarding to the county board for approval. Let's find a fiscal note, which says the Snowmobile Trail Aid Program is expected to cost approximately $70,440 for winter 2026-2027. 100% of this cost is funded by the grant and the anticipated grant funds have been included in the adopted budget for 2026. This resolution authorizes the Jefferson County Finance Director to make any necessary budget adjustments for additional miles. Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption of this resolution.
Moved by Mr. Christensen, second by Supervisor Callen. Questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, resolution passes. And then we go to item F, resolution authorizing acceptance of bid on County Parks agricultural 3-year lease.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have resolution number 2025-97. The Jefferson County Parks Department has accepted bids for a 3-year lease for rental of approximately 55 acres along Kiesling Road at Dorothy Carnes Park North. One bid was submitted by W.D. Hord & Sons Company, offering to pay $310 per acre. This resolution accepts the bid of $310 per acre and authorizes the county administrator to enter into a 3-year lease. The Jefferson County Parks Committee considered this resolution at its meeting on February 26, 2026, and recommended forwarding to the county board for approval. Fiscal note, total rent payable to Jefferson County on an annual basis is $17,050, which is $51,150 for the 3-year term. Funding for this lease is included in the 2026 budget. No budget adjustment is necessary. Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption of this resolution.
Moved by Supervisor Christensen, second by Supervisor Gulick. Questions, discussion on this contract? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes. Takes us to item 12, Human Resources Committee. Resolution establishing total annual compensation for county elected officials of clerk and sheriff for the fiscal years 2027 through 2030, pursuant to Wisconsin state statutes. Mr. Brogler.
Before I read this, I do want to give a shout out to our interim Human Resources Director, Jessica Tucker, and the Human Resource Committee, because this is pretty much the majority of the committee's first time going through this process. About every 3 to 4 years, we have to pull out our crystal ball, guess what the future is going to be, and make all of these adjustments and predictions. So with that, resolution number 2025-98. On March 20th, 2020, the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors adopted ordinance 2019-18, which establishes a procedure for setting the salaries of elected officials. That board determined that in order to maintain elected officials at the 60th percentile through their 4-year term, base salary for the upcoming term should be stabilized by utilizing the step of the prospective pay grade that places them closest to, but not less than, the 70th percentile of comparable markets for the year preceding the 4-year term, with predetermined annual adjustments during the 4-year term. The sheriff and clerk of courts positions are up for election in November 2026. Pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 150221, the salaries for all 4 years on the upcoming term must be established by April 15, 2026, earliest time for filing nomination papers for elected offices. On Tuesday, February 17, 2026, the Human Resource Committee discussed the current market trends and conditions, the internal comparable wages, and Jefferson County's comparable county salaries of the clerk of court and sheriff. After analyzing this information, the Human Resource Committee is recommending an 11% increase in year 1, 4% increase in year 2 and 3, 3.5% increase in year 4 of a 4-year term, 2027, 28, 29, and 30 of the sheriff, and an 8% increase in year 1, 3% in year 2 and 3, and a 3.5% increase in year 4 for the 4-year term, 27, 28, 29, 30 of the clerk of courts. The base salary was established in continuation of an ordinance 2019-18, establishing a procedure to set elected official salaries, which provides for determining the base starting salary for the upcoming year term by reference to a step that is closest to but not less than the 70th percentile of comparable counties, the appropriate recommended grade placement, grade 12 for the clerk of courts, grade 16 for the sheriff. Financial Fiscal note, notice it is broken down by the 4 years, and the last paragraph puts that all into a nice little encapsulation. The total cumulative fiscal impact for the 4 years term from 2027 to 2030 is Clerk of Courts $19,279.58, Sheriff $34,812.45. The total cumulative fiscal impact for the 4-year term is $54,110.03, including Federal Insurance Contribution Acts, which is the FICA tax, Wisconsin Retirement System employer contribution at the 2026 rate. I move for passage.
Second. Thank you, Mr. Brogler. Moved by Mr. Brogler, second by Mr. Zarling. I remember my many years on HR, this was excruciating to do, and at least you have a better process now. Any questions, discussion? See none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? See none, the resolution passes. And resolution, item B, resolution creating medical director position in the Human Services Department. Mr. Brogler.
Resolution number 2025-99. The Human Services Director recommends the creation of one full-time equivalent medical director's position as a random hour exempt employee to be added to the classification listing in the 2026 adopted budget. This position will be considered unclassified service, as the market rate for this position will fall outside the county's classification plan. A separate employment contract will be negotiated with the successful applicant, outlining the employee's wages, benefits, and terms of employment. Traditionally, the Human Services Medical Director role has been filled via an independent contractor for over 30 years. Due to the retirement of the contracted medical director, this newly created position will allow for a transition to a full-time employee, providing medical leadership across human services. A full-time employee provides continuity in clinical oversight, strengthens regulatory compliance, supports timely decision-making, enhances coordination of behavioral health, and allows for greater engagement in department quality assurance, policy development, and emergency preparedness. This resolution creates a full-time medical director position and amends the Human Services Department 2026 budget accordingly. On March 10, 2026, the Human Services Committee considered this resolution and recommend forwarding it to the County Board for consideration and approval. Fiscal note. The medical director is funded through DHS, participant insurance, WMIC, settlement, and county levy. This position utilizes existing appropriation and is anticipated to be cost neutral with no increase in the county board levy. County board approval requires a 2/3 vote of the entire membership of the county board, 20 of the 30 members. I move for passage.
Moved by Supervisor Brogler. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Supervisor Paulson and Supervisor Lund. Questions? Discussion? Seeing none, please vote on your tablet.
Supervisor Richardson?
Aye.
Supervisor Herbst?
Aye.
Supervisor White?
Aye.
We have 28 yes, 0 no, 1 abstain, and 1 absent.
Thank you. The resolution passes. Item 13, Law Enforcement Emergency Management Committee, proclamation proclaiming May 10th to 16th, 2026 as National Police Week. Supervisor Morris.
I have Proclamation 2025-8. Whereas in 1962, President John F. Kennedy and the United States Congress designated May 15 as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which it falls as National Police Week. And whereas Peace Officer Memorial Day has been set aside to honor the fallen men and women of law enforcement who selflessly and valiantly sacrificed their own lives to ensure the safety of others. And whereas the members of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office fulfill an essential role in protecting the freedoms and rights of citizens and visitors of Jefferson County, Wisconsin. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their sheriff's office, and that members of Jefferson County Sheriff's Office recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas members of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office unwaveringly accept their duty to answer this solemn calling each and every day, now therefore be it proclaimed by the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors that May 10th through 16th, 2026 is hereby recognized as National Police Week, and all government officials, parents, teachers, school administrators, caregivers, business leaders, nonprofit organizations, and the people of Jefferson County are called upon to observe this week with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which everyone may join in commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to our community, and in so doing have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. I move for adoption of this proclamation.
Second.
Moved by Supervisor Morris, second by, was that Supervisor Jacob? Any questions, discussion concerning the proclamation? Thank our officers for all that they do. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Proclamation passes. Takes us to item 14, Human Services Board. Another proclamation proclaiming the month of April 2026 as Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Month. Mr. Lund.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have Proclamation 2025-9. Whereas child abuse and neglect is a complex and ongoing problem in our society, affecting many children in Jefferson County. And whereas every child is entitled to be loved, cared for, nurtured, feel secure, and be free from verbal, sexual, emotional, and physical abuse and neglect. And whereas it is the responsibility of every adult who comes in contact with a child to protect that child's inalienable right to a safe and nurturing childhood. And whereas Jefferson County has many dedicated individuals and organizations who work daily to counter the problem of child maltreatment and to help parents obtain the assistance they need. And whereas our communities are stronger when all citizens become aware of child maltreatment prevention and become involved in supporting parents to raise their children in a safe and nurturing environment. And whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships among families, social service agencies, schools, religious and civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. And whereas the Human Services Board at its February 10th, 2026 meeting unanimously voted to forward this proclamation to the County Board of Supervisors for adoption. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors that the month of April 2026 is hereby recognized as Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Month. Mr. Chair, I move approval of this proclamation.
Moved by Mr. Lund, second by Mr. Paulson. Questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Move on to item 15, Planning and Zoning Committee. Report, Supervisor Jacob.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Report to the honorable members of Jefferson County Board of Supervisors. Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Committee, having considered petitions to amend the official zoning map and proposed text amendments to the zoning ordinance of Jefferson County, filed for public hearing held on September 18th, 2025 and February 19th, 2026, as required by law pursuant to Wisconsin statutes. Notice thereof having been given and being duly advised of the wishes of the town boards and persons in the areas affected, hereby makes the following recommendations. The committee has reviewed and considered the facts presented in the application and received in public hearings and finds that the criteria listed in Wisconsin statute 9148 and Jefferson County zoning ordinance section 2256B has been met for the below listed petitions. The committee further finds that the petitions are consistent with Jefferson County Comprehensive Plan and Farmland Preservation. For further support of the committee's recommendations can be found in the staff reports and individual petition files on record in the Planning and Development Office. Approval of petitions as listed, dated this 10th day of March 2026, Blaine Paulson, Secretary. With that, I'd like to move on to the ordinance number 19, amending the official zoning map. And that is, I move to amend it as presented in the report.
Second. Moved by Supervisor Jekyll, second by Supervisor Paulson. Any questions, discussion? Mr. Kennard.
Abstain for potential conflict of interest.
Recognized. Mr. Kennard is abstaining. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Opposed? Hearing none. The resolution passes. All right. Excuse me, the ordinance. Next, we move to the ordinance amending the Jefferson County zoning ordinance to regulate solar energy systems. You have one in the book here, and there's also, you should have some amendments that were suggested by Supervisor Heights, Turbo Heights. Mr. Jekyll.
Ordinance number 2025-21. Jefferson County continues to see an interest in solar energy developments throughout the county. To date, the Planning and Zoning Committee has reviewed at least 7 solar energy developments, 3 projects over 100 megawatts and 4 projects under 100 megawatts, and continues to receive inquiries about future developments. In addition to large-scale solar energy system, accessory solar continues to be a popular addition to residential and commercial properties. The Planning and Zoning Committee reviewed Jefferson County zoning ordinance and recommended an amendment to be adopted to set forth regulations related to solar energy systems for the past year. The committee has been reviewing solar energy regulations and compiled a draft ordinance which was provided to the towns in January of 2025. 10 towns approved of the proposed zoning ordinance solar energy system provisions, while 3 denied the amendment and 3 did not respond. A Class 2 notice public hearing was held on the proposed amendment September 19, 2025. Planning and Zoning Committee reviewed the proposed ordinance amendment numerous times over the past year, and on September 29, 2025, recommended forwarding to the ordinance to the County Board of Supervisors on October 14, 2025. The County Board voted to refer ordinance back to the Planning and Zoning Committee for further consideration. On February 23, 2026, the Planning and Zoning Committee again reviewed the proposed ordinance and recommended forwarding to the County Board of Supervisors to create regulations for solar energy systems as set forth in the attachment. Fiscal note, passage of this ordinance has no determinable fiscal impact. Mr. Chair, I move for adoption of this ordinance.
Movement by Mr. Jekyll, second by Mr. Paulson. Questions, discussion? Mr. Priss.
I have 2 questions. Number 4, third part, 500 feet, calling for a 500-foot setback. How will this affect residential installation where a 500-foot setback could be virtually impossible? Also, the height, maximum height, 18 feet. How does that affect rooftop and building installation?
Matt, do you want to handle one, or do you want me to try my best?
This doesn't affect you.
The first one you reference under number 4 is related to small solar energy developments. So that would not be your traditional residential. That would be more of a a project under the 100 megawatt threshold. So think Crawfish River Solar just west of town, or some of the other quote larger solar developments, but not your traditional residential. You're putting a solar panel in your backyard. The 18-foot height requirement is only for ground mounted. It's not for rooftop or rooftop solar.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Brown? Mr. Brogler?
Okay, so I have multiple concerns on this. First of all, we sent it back to the committee. I wish we'd have given them more instruction, because without going line for line, it doesn't seem like there was much change made. So that seems like it was purposeless to send it back. Second of all, I am constantly battling between the landowners of private property, the business owners trying to make a living, and county zoning, and where those three interact with each other. And I'm constantly torn by that. And the third, Wisconsin is the second most regulated state in the United States, second only to our southern neighbor, not California, but Illinois. And we're adding to the minutia and making difficult things, and I'm just not sure how I feel about this.
Meg?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to say, first of all, I support solar and battery energy storage system ordinance, and based on the guidance that was provided by the Wisconsin Counties Association attorneys, every county should have these ordinances in place as soon as possible due to widespread demands, due to data centers, among other things that are happening in the world right now. The ordinances not only provide the expectations to smaller scale developers of commercial systems, they're providing leverage in negotiations for large scale systems and flexibility to respond quickly to issues. And more importantly, there is currently no state statute that guides the battery energy storage systems, something being used more and more by solar, data centers, and other businesses. In October, 2 issues were raised by solar developers that sent this ordinance back to committee. One complaint was that we had too strict a limit on prime ag land. I disagree with that. I think the prime ag land is non-recoverable. We can never return that land to its former use after, if in 20 years our needs for farmlands have changed. And I've been watching the solar development taking place along highways 12 and 18 and 73 in Cambridge and several town roads. It extends for miles and miles. It's non-contiguous with large blocks of farmland in between. A developer has the option to map out its needs with appropriate blocks of land. The other involved farmed wetlands. And I recognize that some lands that have been tiled and farmed for long periods of time really no longer have the characteristics of wetlands. Thus, I'd offer the amendment to Section C, General Requirements, which is on page 3, sub 3, that allows the committee to review and potentially grant an exception for existing farmed tiled wetlands. Please see the text as noted in the handout. Those out online can find it attached to the county newsletter Ryan sent out last week. And then based on the experiences of other municipalities facing fires and leaks from battery energy storage systems, I'd like to offer 2 changes to Section G3.4, page 11, based on Massachusetts statutes. And again, note Wisconsin has no statutes addressing this. The addition of item 2 says an applicant can be required to test, may be required to test the soils for metals and volatile organic compounds and PAH's contamination that have been typical of fire and leak hazards to establish baseline soil conditions. And then item 3 would reiterate cleanup standards, including sampling for residual contamination, and return the site to baseline conditions if we have a record of them, or ensure that the conditions fall below state and federal regulatory limits for contaminants. So, Mr. Chair, I offer an amendment to this ordinance to address these 3 changes.
And the amendments you should have, they should be printed for you.
I'll second
And a second by Mr. Paulson. Questions, discussion. I will say this, I asked people to give us input, and I appreciate what Meg has done. And these are things that just didn't think of. And nobody brought forward these, and I'm glad they did. And several people have contacted me. I know Supervisor Callen did, Supervisor Golson did. So this is I appreciate the time and effort that you put in, and this in discussion with my fellow zoning committee members. I think these, from my standpoint, I think these are good additions to the ordinance. Questions, discussion? Mr. Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Likewise, I agree with these two amendments that are highlighted in red here that Supervisor Trovo Heights has submitted regarding the inability to return the land to prime condition after the completion or the end of the useful life of these facilities. It is required to be returned. They're all removed off the land, and the land is returned to its use and remains A1 zoning. So in my mind, putting these facilities on ag land is more or less preserving the land for the period of time that those solar panels are in place, and then the land will probably be in better shape when it's returned to ag uses. Thank you.
Any other questions, discussion? Now remember, we're discussing the amendment right now. Mr. Jacob.
Mr. Chair, I do appreciate Supervisor Turville Heights' amendments, and I do honestly agree with her on the prime soil being returned. It won't be the same. I've seen it firsthand on some of these where they disturbed it greatly from what it was, but I can stand with her amendments that she has otherwise. So I do agree with her two amendments, and I'm glad that we actually got some input finally. It took long enough. We were waiting for inputs from the rest of the board on this because we looked at it, and when 5 people look at something, you can look at it time after time. I mean, we studied this for 6 months on and off in draft form, and we tweaked some here, we tweaked some there, and when we thought we had a good enough project, we sent it forward. So, I'm willing to stand by this, and I think we need, as just an overall thing, we need an ordinance to at least be able to regulate it. Without an ordinance, we have nothing to regulate anything with. So there's my comments on it.
Thank you, Mr. Jacob. Other comments? Everybody remember, not everything is foreseeable when you do an ordinance like this, and nothing in here is carved in stone. I mean, we can see how it works, and if we have to modify, how many times have we brought zoning amendments before people that we've had to modify over time because not everything's always foreseeable. So thank you again to those supervisors that contributed some ideas. I really appreciate your time and effort because at a point, I agree 100% with Mr. Jacob. You look at the same thing over and over and over again for a year, and when it just gets sent back to us and said with no advice as to what they want changed, what do? So thank you again. Any other questions, discussion? Mr. Gross.
Yes, I'm glad that this came back forward, and like you said, Chairman Noss, you can always amend it and improve it from what it is, but we need to have something, So I'm glad that the committee brought this back.
And just as long as everybody understands, this doesn't govern the large ones per se. That's the PSC in the end. But okay. With that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, that's the amendment. So we have the amendment. Now the ordinance comes forward. So the amendment is approved unanimously by voice. Now all in favor of the ordinance?
Aye.
Wait. Mr. Connor has a comment on the ordinance.
Yeah, I gave many comments back in October. I have the soils math back up, and the yellows and the greens are all prime, which this ordinance says you can only use 25% prime to make a project. So you'd have to use the browns, and throughout the county, we're predominantly prime. So to put a project together other than 100 megawatt or better where this wouldn't apply, it's about impossible. I don't know if you see those. Show me a spot that would have a big enough area to make it worthwhile, I guess. I know the committee can vary that or something. I believe it was something in there, but it's 25%, I think, is right in the beginning here on first page, bottom number 8. Talks about that. And then as you, that's the soils in Jefferson County.
That's not the.
It's not the entire county, that's just, is that around the city of Jefferson yet? Yeah, city of Jefferson's in the middle of that.
Zoom out, it doesn't show it properly.
Yeah, as you zoom out, it drops off, but you could pan around the rest of the county if you would like, Serena. But, and then you'll see that they come up. There's a big spot on non-prime there, but that's probably a swamp or something, or I don't know what's up there that makes that all non-prime, but there's a spot that would be viable. But the majority of the county is all prime soil. You got to get into a slope situation. Then this does restrict, you can't be on this 20% slope, which a lot of your non-primes are a larger slope. Then they also, the setbacks for the 500 feet and the 700 feet, if you got 2 residences, one on each side, and you're using up like 1,400 feet between them, seems like kind of excessive. You know, you're wasting a lot of land just in setbacks. We have a setback ordinance, and then I know the PSC usually, they have a property line and they have a fence around it and a drive area and whatnot, so they would have to be at least 20 feet to meet the zoning ordinance, but most of them are greater than that, what I've seen. So I still think this should have some tweaking, I guess, as far as even the part for the residences. They limit, I think it's, what's the limit on the residence, Matt, for the system? You can't only produce what you can use, is it? Is that still in there, or?
Something similar to that, yeah. There's a caveat that you can't be, you can't be claiming residential and producing back to the grid.
I think, doesn't it go off the size of the residence or something? You can only have so many square feet.
There's a square footage requirement for the residential with the theory of you're not covering the entire residential yard area or house with panels.
Okay. All right, that's just some of my comments, and for now, I just think you're pretty much outlawing the majority of the county from being able to utilize solar. I look at solar as just another crop for the farmer. They're paying big money per acre for solar lands, and the farmer doesn't even have to buy a seed. He doesn't have to have a tractor, and they're usually 20-year or more leases. So, I do believe that, as Walt mentioned, once you remove the posts and stuff, you can go back to farming the ground after the fact. And I don't know if it'd be in better shape or worse shape or what, but I don't see how it would harm the soil because they just push the posts in to put their racks up or whatever you want to call them, sort of solar units. And once they remove them, the same way they put them in, just pull them back out. So that's my comments.
Mr. Paulson.
Okay. On John's concern in section 8, item number 3, other mitigation measures approved by the Planning and Zoning Committee, which means we can put it on 100% prime if we so chose to do that. And that also goes for the 500-foot setback if there are extenuating circumstances and the company that's putting it up can come to us and we will approve it if they can get, you know, the neighboring property to say, we don't care if it's 100 feet, you know, that's fine. And after saying that, I'd like to refer to the question and get this to the board for a vote.
Any other questions, discussion? Mr. Morris?
It's just, these were the concerns that John brought up last time.
Mhm.
In other words, we did tell the committee that last
Mm-hmm.
time. And so you saw all the brown properties there, and
Mhm.
it's a great ordinance. I agree that we need to have an ordinance. It's just the way that we've written the ordinance. There's not a lot of people that are gonna go forward with solar. I'm not a great lover of solar, but I have no problem with it. I just don't see why we have to have this much regulation that is gonna affect very little property in the county.
Anyone else? You can't do that. Anyone else? With that, all, would you prefer a roll call vote, or let's do a roll call vote. Tablets? Or do you have? She's got to do a few adjustments on the computer here, and hopefully it doesn't smoke and blow up.
Okay, go ahead.
All right.
Supervisor Richardson?
Aye.
Supervisor Herbst?
Aye.
Supervisor Truax? Supervisor, thank you. Supervisor Nass?
Aye.
Supervisor White?
Aye.
For some reason or other, this stopped working.
We have 24 yes, 4 no, 1 abstain, and 1 absent.
The ordinance passes. Takes us on to item D, ordinance amending the Jefferson County zoning ordinance to incorporate accessory dwelling unit regulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ordinance number 2025-22. The Planning and Zoning Committee recently reviewed the county's zoning ordinance for potential amendments. The committee identified accessory dwelling units, or commonly known as mother-in-law suites, as an area to explore for incorporation into the zoning ordinance. Staff researched the topic and surveyed the towns for their initial input on the matter. Following review of that input, the committee decided to proceed with a text amendment to allow for ADUs with certain regulations and limitations in specific zoning districts. Incorporation of ADU regulations into the zoning ordinance supports diverse housing opportunities by enabling the addition of new housing units that broaden the variety, size, and cost of local housing options. They enable intentional economic growth by adding housing units on the developed land with no impact on farmland or undeveloped spaces. The committee also included language to help limit the use of ADUs as short-term rentals, and along with sensitive areas such as surrounding lakes and rivers. A draft of the ordinance amendment was provided to the towns on October 5th or October 8th, 2025. 13 of the 16 towns approved, 1 town denied, and 2 towns did not respond to the proposed ordinance amendment. A Class 2 notice public hearing was held on the proposed amendment on February 19th, 2026, and the Planning and Zoning Committee reviewed proposed amendment numerous times over the past year. On February 23rd, 2026, recommended forwarding this ordinance to the County Board of Supervisors to create and incorporate regulations to allow for accessory dwelling set forth in the attached.
Moved by Mr. Jekyll, second by Mr. Paulson. Questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, the resolution passes, or excuse me, the ordinance passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The ordinance amending the Jefferson County Private On-Site Wastewater Treatment System Ordinance, or POUTS.
Ordinance number 2025-23, amending, the Planning and Zoning Committee recently reviewed private on-site wastewater treatment systems ordinance to any updates or amendments. It was determined that the requirements of maintenance agreement was no longer necessary for a permitting process and recommends removing the requirement of a maintenance agreement from the ordinance. In addition, the committee recommends amending the enforcement language found in the ordinance based on previous enforcement challenges. On February 23rd, 2026, Planning and Zoning Committee reviewed proposed changes and recommended forwarding the proposed ordinance amendment to the County Board of Supervisors. And you can see everything that was crossed out and added to in red. Passage of this ordinance has no determinable fiscal impact. Mr. Chairman, I move for passage of this ordinance.
Moved by Mr. Jekyll, second by Mr. Paulson. Questions and discussion concerning this ordinance? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance passes. Okay, takes us to item 16, appointments by the county administrator. Mr. Lucky.
By virtue of the authority vested in me under sections 59.182C of the Wisconsin statutes, I respectfully request confirmation of the following appointment. Aaron O'Neill from the City of Watertown to the Jefferson County Library Board to fill the term expiring December 31st of this year, open due to the resignation of Greg Hosh.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Brogler, second by, who gave a second here? Mr. Jekyll. Any questions, discussion concerning this appointment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, the appointment is confirmed. Public comment of a general nature. Calvin, you gotta help me with this. I can't read the writing. You can announce it.
Hello. My name is Calvin Fisnick. I live in Fort Atkinson, and I have concerns that I would like to share regarding the use of flock cameras. Flock Safety makes AI-equipped surveillance cameras for use in public spaces. One of their main products is marketed as a license plate reader. These are small black cameras, often very hard to spot if you're not looking for them. And Flock and the agencies using their cameras do not usually publish much information about their use. So people created a crowdsourced map of the camera locations, and that is available at dflock.org. As of Sunday, it showed over 80,000 cameras across the U.S. These are only the cameras that people have seen and added to the map. So the actual number is higher, and there are several in Jefferson County. While these cameras are often marketed as license plate readers, that term hides that they collect a lot more than just plates. They take photos of every car that drives by and identify the model, color, stickers, damage, other unique features. This all goes into a searchable database that can be accessed without a warrant, regardless of whether the driver or owner is suspected of a crime. This means that the day-to-day movements of everyone are being tracked with very little to no transparency about what this data is used for. Another issue is that it's not just the agency that installed the cameras who has access. Flock not only allows police departments to share access to their cameras with other departments, but they incentivize it. Departments that choose to share data are able to access data from other departments that also choose to share. All this data being in one place creates a huge opportunity for misuse. While I was researching for this comment, I was looking for news about a case in Menasha of a police officer off-duty using Flock systems to stalk his ex. And instead, I got results for a more recent case in Milwaukee of almost the same thing. These cases were not discovered by safeguards built into the system or by the police departments themselves, but by individuals. Finally, all the data from these cameras is stored on Flock systems, and they have not had a great track record for security. Recently, at least 60 of their cameras were found open to the internet with no password. Anyone who could find that web page could read a person's phone screen while they stood underneath the camera, watch children on a playground, and if they wanted to, could have deleted footage off of these cameras. In similar cases before that, Flock's response was to downplay the issue and say that the cameras that were hacked were different than the ones in use. It is also worth noting that CEO of Flock, Garrett Langley, has publicly labeled deflock.org as a terrorist organization. All they do is map where the cameras are, educate the public about them, and advocate for their removal. I have nothing against the use of effective tools for catching criminals. What I have a problem with are systems that are easily misused, compromising the freedom and privacy of everyone. Flock has shown that they are not trustworthy, and enough police officers have misused the systems to show that it needs more oversight. We need to balance effective law enforcement with not becoming a surveillance state and avoid catching everyone up in a surveillance dragnet. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You timed that out great. Thank you. Takes us to announcements. I want to make one brief announcement that you should have gotten an email with any one of our supervisors that serves is the only member on a committee. We passed a rule several years ago that do a one-time annual report on which that committee. For example, I'm on ICC, so I'll do. You have an example of this in your packet here. This is Meg's that she did on Lake Ripley Management District. So if you're the only serving person on this type of whatever committee or commission it is, just a brief, it just has to be a little paragraph, just telling us what transpired, what's it about, because most people wouldn't necessarily know. And so I have to do one for ICC and one for workforce development. So with that, any other announcements? Mr. Lucky.
I have a couple for the remainder of March into April. We do have some blood drives coming up. I know a number of you have participated in those. One will be out at the health department, and then one next week here in the courthouse. If any of you are interested, there's a sign outside that has the dates. April then comes to a little bit of a change with our county board schedule. Remember, the election is on Tuesday, April 7th. What would normally be the first county board meeting would be that Tuesday, April 14th. However, we hold the organizational meeting at a different time. So on Tuesday, April 14th is the orientation for all board members. There will be a time at 5 o'clock for new board members to come and meet with Human Resources and MIS to get their equipment and get insurance all sorted out. Then at 6 o'clock, we'll do kind of a meet and greet for all new members. We're expecting at least 6 new members. And then we'll begin orientation at 7 o'clock, and that will be valuable information for the new supervisors and a refresher for all of you as well. And then April 21st is the organizational meeting that begins at 4 o'clock here in the county boardroom. Also that day on April 21st is the Thrive Leaders and Legends Award. So if anyone wants to join me at 3 o'clock in Fort Atkinson at the Riverstone Events Center, there is an event recognizing the outstanding businesses, organizations, leaders, and initiatives that are improving the economy and quality of life in Jefferson County. That is a partnership between Thrive Economic Development and Biz Times Media.
Did you say that was 4 o'clock?
That is at 3 o'clock. And it goes from 3 to 6, so unfortunately, we will not be able to be there the whole time, but I'm going to...
Annual meeting starts
The organizational meeting begins at 4.
at 4.
4 o'clock on the 21st.
Mr. Gross, announcements?
Yeah, I have a much lighter announcement. Jefferson County Farm Bureau is having their meat raffle at the Otstalon Inn on March 21st from 2 to 4 in the afternoon, and the last prize at the end is half a pig. Is the grand prize at the end that we're raffling off. So, and that's including the butchering, wrapping, and everything. So, all right, thank you.
I was going to ask, it was live and you had to put it in the trunk
No,
of your
it's
car?
not live. I mean, we can do it.
5 degrees and a half. Any other announcements?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Jekyll, second by Mr. Gulig. This is not debatable. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.